wa taifa,
jiepushe
na uvivu, tujenge taifa.
Ndugu yangu
Kumekucha, amka twende shamba,
jiepushe
na uvivu, tujenge taifa.
The nightmare is in the allowances, says S.R.C. My name is Richard Mwenja for Dreamland Voices. Thank you for joining me. Now, a recently released technical paper on streamlining allowances in the public sector placed 322.5 billion shillings as having been spent on just allowances alone in the previous year. Now, joining me on set to discuss on this and much more issues pertaining the same is Faith Thumbi, an economist, a psychologist, as well as an advertiser with the Kenyan as well as the International School of Advertising. She'll be joining me on set after this short break. All right, we have Faith Thumbi with us on set today. Welcome.
Thank you, Richard.
Now let's delve straight into it. We've seen 70% of these allowances being gobbled up by the non-frontline servants. Isn't this in the first place an economic injustice and one that actually puts forth a frustrating labor economy in Kenya?
Indeed, Richard, this is an economic injustice. From the numbers do not lie. How can we have just 20% of the public servants receiving 70% of the allowances, which is approximately 225.5 billion, while the majority made up of nurses and teachers just receiving 30%.
Correct.
Indeed, this is a broken system favoring the few of the majority.
So you can agree with me that it is unfair in the first place?
It is very unfair, Richard.
Awesome. Now there's also another issue here. With S.R.C trying actually to streamline the allowances issue, how can they make sure that they don't go back and hound the already suffering lot? Now the 70% only take up 30% of these allowances. How can they ensure that even the streamlining, they don't actually go back and hound them?
Well, what I think, Richard, should be done by the S.R.C, we said it's a broken system, and what I think the S.R.C should do is refine the leadership system by putting in place leaders who are for the interest of the people and the country. Another thing what the S.R.C should do is cut down on some of these allowances. We've seen in a span of 20 years, the number of allowances hiking to 247. The S.R.C should cut down these allowances in order to reduce expenditure on allowances.
All right. And Faye, there's also another debate that sprouts forth. Do we see a promising labor market in Kenya soon, going by the frustrations of majority in the public service? This is actually with regards to remuneration.
Indeed, Richard, I don't see a promising labor market in the future if the leadership system is not changed. You know, when there is good leadership, there is integrity, and every individual is able to express their needs in a safe place where they feel that their grievances will be heard and acted upon. You see, in a psychologist's point of view, when these public servants are frustrated at work, at home, even socially frustrated, they'll be depressed. And do you know the outcome of a frustrated labor market? They will not measure up. They will not deliver. Yeah.
And still on that debate, how can S.R.C deal with the problem of actually seeing majority of these top civil servants being paid for primarily what they should be doing in the first place?
What I think the S.R.C should do is to cut down on the number of allowances. We have seen in a span of 20 years the number of allowances going from 31 to 247.
Wow.
You see, when these allowances are cut down into half or maybe something like 70, then the other amount that is spent on these allowances can be used in other areas of building this country. Then another thing that I think the S.R.C should do is leadership. I will still continue to emphasize on leadership. You know, when we have good leaders, there is integrity. People are able to express themselves without fear. And you know, when people have this fear, there's this mentality, the sheep walking mentality, whereby you're hiring people who are obedient and have been given brain dead jobs and enough fear to put them in line. So if we have good leadership, these people are able to express themselves, put their grievances on the table and say this and this is not right for us, and we think this change should be done. Yeah,
all right.
Richard, this
all
is
right.
what I think.
True. And you still support of, the initiative that these mediocre allowances, so to speak,
Yes.
that they should be trimmed down.
Yes, they should be cut down and to build the society.
Especially those accredited to the top senior servants in the public service, right?
Yes.
Now another cause of alarm actually is seen with regards to most legislations being geared towards favoring members of the legislature and the executive. How can S.R.C actually in the first place tame such self-centeredness and just self-interest among the legislators and the executive members of the public service?
The solution is simple. The S.R.C should be involved in any amendments that are to be placed with regards to salaries and allowances.
Absolutely.
And they should be strict, especially to these public servants that are members of the executive and the legislative arm.
Alright, so the self-centeredness, majority comes from the MPs, say, members of the executive. That should be stopped.
Yes, that is what I suggest.
So it's all about S.R.C being firm and strict with regards to these amendments.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. And now actually summing it up, we've seen the technical paper place 64 billion, actually 64.5 billion being spent on just house allowances alone in the previous year. How can the affordable housing pillar of the Big Four agenda being used by the S.R.C, say, to ensure that in the next coming years they actually trim down on the house allowance? Because actually 64.5 billion, how can they merge the Big Four agenda on affordable housing as a conduit to actually reducing these allowances with regards to housing in the first place?
What I think, Richard, this is a very good idea. If the government was to adopt the affordable housing agenda, it could really make a difference in the country with regards to allowances. If it could use that 64 billion to build houses for these public servants, you will see year after year, the allowances expenditure reducing and reducing until a point where I will expect to spend zero on house allowance.
All right. So they can actually merge the two,
Yes.
affordable housing and it being a conduit of reducing the house allowance in the first place.
Exactly.
All right, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure.
Awesome. It goes without saying that should the S.R.C not tame down the bulging number of allowances in the public sector, then the country's wage bill will keep on increasing by the year. For Dreamland Voices from the University of Nairobi, I am Richard Mwenja.
Vivu ni adui mkubwa kwa ujenzi wa taifa.